Welcome to Across the Pond, a podcast for leaders in market research to help them grow their insight agencies, with Steve Henke and Paul Griffiths.
Well, welcome everybody, or welcome back to Across the Pond, a podcast for growing your insights agency. This is episode 2, season 2, and I'm Steve Henke with Harpeth Marketing.
Hi, and I'm Paul Griffiths from Client Advocates. And today's episode is all about the amazingly exciting issue. I think this is kind of really at the core of how you help your insights agency grow. How do you do key account management effectively? How do you lock in? How do you build value in those key relationships with clients? We've got 20 minutes as ever, Steve. I know you and I have got a lot to talk about on this one, so let's just dip in. I think you were gonna kind of raise some challenges or some issues to kick off.
If I could, I think, all clients matter, but big clients matter more, right? It's critical, right? That's what allows you to keep the lights on and pay salaries. But in, 13 and a half years of talking with clients, particularly small and mid-size agencies, there are some inherent problems with big clients. Two in particular. One is that particularly for smaller firms, you might have 2, 3, or 4 clients that make up 50, 60, 70% of your business, which is great until one of them leaves. And then it's devastating. So, it requires more than ever to make sure that you are doing whatever you can to not only diversify your client base, but to make sure you keep those clients. The other thing that I hear a lot is that you have a great relationship with a big client, been a client for years, it's gone really good, but everything runs through one contact. And that contact leaves, and they will leave every single time, guaranteed. What are you doing about that? And part of that is, are we getting to know other people inside that organization, in the insights department, brand managers, rather than just relying on that one relationship? So I think if we are managed as part of the plan of managing key accounts, we've got to manage those issues as well.
Yeah. And look, that absolutely rings true. One of my first bosses said to me, I remember it was slightly depressing, but he said, the only thing you can guarantee when you win a big program or a big client is that you know at some point it's going to end. And you're kind of like, oh man, really? But that is sadly the reality. And absolutely what key account management about is trying to push back against that weight. And to your point, if you can extend your reach into these organizations, I call it tendriling. If you can tendril and get into other parts of the organization, broaden your scope of operation, broaden your connections, build relationships with more than one individual, and hopefully make lots of individuals, that gives you great opportunities to grow that account. The other thing I would say is, and we've talked about this, I know, it's so much easier to grow and get more work from existing clients than it is new ones. And on that basis, it is so important that you do your key account management with rigor and with real focus, because it's where you are going to get, in the short to medium term, your growth, your sustainability, and all of the commercial value that your agency you need to secure. I think I said right at the start, I think this is such an important issue. So in that regard, can I start by saying that while I love key account management, I hate key account plans. And I think key account plans are the anathema of actually really good key account management.
Don't sugarcoat it, Paul. How do you really feel?
Yeah. So, and I've seen this again, and I used to do this back in the day. You spend, it's the start of the year, we're going to do our key account plan. And you spend weeks and months compiling all this information and all this stuff about the client. And then you pat yourself on the back and go, that's amazing. And you stick it in a drawer and you never look at it again. And I think it is the most colossal waste of time doing that. I prefer to talk about key account activation plans, which is far more about getting on one or two pieces of paper the relevant, succinct information about that client in terms of what you've done with them, what's the state of your relationship, what your win rate on proposals is, some sort of formulation of kind of how price sensitive they might be, a list of all the people that you have a relationship within that business. And to your point, immediate red flag if it's just one individual. But the meat of that activation plan is actually doing a number of things. One, it's talking about the commercial issues that client has. And we talked in season 2, episode 1 about being really close to your client's business issues. Secondly, an explanation of what that business issue means for your agency and how you are going to help them meet that. And you need to have some formulation of that. And thirdly, it's got a whole long list of people that you aren't talking to that you would like to talk to. And then what you do is you run this activation process on a monthly basis where you are essentially reviewing what have we done last month to address that commercial need? What have we done to demonstrate to the client we can help meet that commercial need? And what have we done to tendril out into the organization so we're not just talking to 1 or 2 people? There, I've done it. That's my view on kind of what a key account management actually should be about.
And I think, key account plans go in the drawer, marketing plans go in the drawer, sales plans go in the drawer. I mean, I don't disagree with that. And I think, and you've got a process maybe more than you have a plan. And that's in either case, whatever your choice is, it's got to be purposeful and intentional, right? It's not haphazard. Too much is at stake here. With a $500,000 or dollar client, you got to do everything you can. And so you can't just, fake your way through it. So whether it's an activation process, an account plan that you actually follow, it's a purposeful series of things to get done to make sure that you not only keep that client, but hopefully grow them over time. No, I like that. I may steal that if that's okay, Paul.
Feel free. I mean, that's the whole point of the podcast. Hopefully everybody's stealing it. What's your view on accountability and responsibility within agencies for
I am a fan. Every agency is a little bit different in terms of size and scope and things like that. But in general, I am a big fan of the idea of a key account manager who is responsible for that account or maybe a few accounts. It is their responsibility to get their tendrils into the organization, their responsibility to make sure they understand that client's business and are bringing that information back to the operations team to be able to execute appropriately towards whatever the goals are that are agreed to. But they are, for lack of a better term, they are the client advocate. And they are responsible. So if the client grows, they get credit. If the client shrinks or goes away, they're held accountable. That's how I think it ought to be done. It's interesting. Nissan Automobile Corporation, Nissan USA, moved its U.S. headquarters from Los Angeles to Franklin, Tennessee, not 5 minutes from here, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever it was. At a point, there was a research firm's person working inside that office. So that person was the key account manager, in this case, the relationship manager. And this research firm had gone to the expense of putting them in there as a way to be close to the client, to get to know them, to get their tendrils into the organization. I'm a big fan of somebody owning the relationship more than just the operations project manager.
I think you're right on that. I distinguish between accountability and responsibility because I think you need to have a named individual who is accountable for that account. What I would add, however, is I think, and this depends obviously on the size of the agency to a degree, but you need to have more than one person responsible for driving the relationship. So the account director is accountable for growing that relationship, hitting those targets and hitting those numbers. That does not absolve everybody else in the business from having nothing to do with that account or going, not my problem, it's your problem. So, and I think where key account management really, really works is where an agency comes together and from the most junior person to the most senior person, they are all contributing and adding to the vigor, the rigor, the communication, the engagement with that account. Now, that has to be formulated and organized by the key account manager. And I absolutely agree you need to have one of those. But I think it's really important that you don't just put all of the onus and all of the burden on an individual. They're accountable for it, but their job is to mobilize the rest of the business to support and help them to deliver on that account activation plan.
No argument with that. I agree. Yeah, they're not solely responsible. They may be solely culpable, but they're not solely responsible. They have a team that they need, to your point, to kind of rally the troops to deliver on that. I think that's an excellent point.
And do you have a view on whether there should be targets for key accounts in terms of revenue targets or gross margin targets or whatever else? Do you have a perspective on that?
I do. Want to hear it?
Yeah. No, Steve, I asked you this question with no interest for your answer.
So what would be different? No, I absolutely believe there ought to be revenue targets for key accounts. I believe there ought to be revenue targets for all existing clients from one year to the next. But that aside, with key accounts, I think it is, and this I think can be part of the key account activation or account plan, whatever you want to call it, because one of the things, it would be incredibly rare for an agency to have 100% share of wallet. Right.
No matter that I often get told, oh, you know what, we're winning getting all of their work. No, you're not.
No, you're not.
No, you're not.
You might be getting it from one department or one brand, but there's other brands. And so I think there's two opportunities here. One is, what do I need to do to ensure that I at least keep the business?
Yes.
And to me, as the key account manager, that is my primary responsibility. But kind of like a salesperson, they ought to have a goal for growing the business, assuming that opportunity is there, and it's always there. And so part of that key account plan or activation process is, okay, what are the other opportunities? Have we been pigeonholed? That happens all the time. So are there other services we can provide to solve other business problems with the group of people we're already working with? And B, are there other groups of people we're not talking to that we should be talking to? And to me, that relationship, whether it's, people to people relationship and a sales relationship, it's the responsibility of the key account manager to do that. And so, yes, there should be revenue goals for key accounts.
No, I agree. I mean, it was a slightly loaded question because I was hoping you were going to say that. In terms of kind of the constructs that you talk about, or I've seen work, or I can't talk about when it comes to account management, you talked there about a number of different things you can do, making sure you're not pigeonholed and the like. Just to try and simplify things, because I'm a simple man. The way I think about it is you can either upsell, which is selling to the same individual the same thing but more of it, increasing the sample size or increasing the geographic spread or covering more products, whatever else. That's upsell. Cross-sell is your pigeonholing things. Cross-sell is going to that same individual and going, we do your brand tracking, but did you know we can do NPD, innovation work, or you think of us as a qual supplier, but actually, you know what? We've got a really cool quant set of stuff over here. So that's the cross-sell. And then the tendering is the referral stuff. And I think the referral stuff is the thing that I think agencies miss most opportunity on. And if you are working with a client and you've identified you have to do some hard work because you've got to identify who those other people are. I think it is perfectly reasonable, and yet people don't seem to feel comfortable going, I've worked with you. You seem to like what I do or what we do as an agency. Would it be, I've spotted that you've got somebody in this department I think we could help. Would you mind introducing me or telling me what's the best way for me to engage and contact that individual to talk about how we can add value to them? And the whole kind of referral thing is such an untapped opportunity, I think, in terms of account management and growth. And to your point, it spreads the risk and moves away from this idea that you've got one key account contact, and if they disappear off to another business or another agency or whatever else they do, suddenly the revenue comes crashing down.
I may have told you the story before, Paul, and if I have, I apologize. But I was asked by one of our clients, a research firm, to talk to several of their clients to kind of get that unvarnished feedback from the marketplace. And I mostly was talking to their larger clients. 2 of the first 3 clients I spoke with said to me, does your client, my agency, do they do other things because we want to send them more money? What? They were both so happy with each other, vendor and client, that they kind of never got outside that myopic view of the relationship to even think about, well, what else do you do, or what else can we do for you? They weren't having those conversations, even within their own existing client base. So I think, to your point, whether it's a cross-sell to existing clients or get your tendrils into the other brands and departments, if you have a relationship, a trust-based relationship, it is simply remembering to ask the question.
Yeah.
It's not hard. It's just doing it.
And that comes back to why this key account activation plan process, whatever you want to call it, is so important, because it's that makes it conscious. It's that against a revenue target. So you're sitting there month on month going, right, how much have we won against this client? How many proposals have we got outstanding? Where else are we going to find the gap that we now have between where we are at the moment and where we want to be? And how quickly can we activate that? Because, gosh, it's only 6 months to the end of the year, and we're only a third of the way through our revenue target on this client. Oh, and they keep saying that they might have some other opportunities, but where are we going to get them, and how are we going to activate them? And look, it's season 2, episode 2, and I've not done it yet, but I'm going to say it now. You need a CRM system to do this too. See, I did it. I got the CRM system in. I held off a whole episode. How you can do account planning and account activation without a CRM system, I do know how you do it. You do it with sticky back plastic and bits of string, and it doesn't work and it falls over. Yeah, you see. For those of you who are listening, Steve's just held up a piece of paper and a Post-it. But I think you've got to, if you're going to make this consistent, and you are going to help your teams to do this in a really, really good way, you as an agency leader or an agency owner, you need to put in systems to help your account managers do this stuff. And it's a great way of tracking through what content you're sending them, what conversations you're having with them, tracking the deal progress through. All of the things that an activation plan requires can be helped and utilized with CRM as a tool. So I'm sure we will come back to CRMs as the season goes on. As you know, it's my.
Hey, I know we're getting close to time, Paul. Can we add one more short topic?
Of course.
One of the things that you and I have talked about is, and you mentioned it in a previous podcast, is buyers don't like it when vendors go quiet.
Yeah.
Right. So what are you doing, particularly with, you should be doing this with all accounts, but particularly with key accounts, to stay top of mind between those big projects? So, because I've always believed if you're not talking to them, somebody else is.
Yeah.
So what can you be doing? And aside from the normal stuff of posting blogs and being active on social media, I think there are some key things that you kind of have to put on the list. And, doing lunch and learns for your key clients is, to me, a great way to get your tendrils into the organization as well as to kind of cement your reputation and subject matter expertise. I think if your senior level folks at your agency are not involved in the relationship, get them involved in the relationship. My guess is they already are, but make it a more visible presence. I think that's important. The other thing I would do is, and this is, it's a win-win here, is what if you were to do a joint webinar with them or profile them in a blog? And the easy example would be, if you're going to do a webinar with a consumer insights person from Ford Motor Company, and not for them to tell the world how awesome you are, but to actually talk about trends in automotive research. Yeah. Everybody else in that industry is going to want to sit in on that webinar or read that blog. So it aligns you with high-level content and a great target audience who's going to be sitting in. So make sure in that activation and or plan that you do, that you are finding ways to multiply your touch points between projects. And the other obvious one is go visit them. Please go visit them. Don't do everything.
Go visit them. Absolutely. I would add on top of that awards, try and get case studies with them, either for awards or just generally to show how amazing each of you is. I would absolutely encourage you to do some of the stuff that I know some of your clients and some of my clients do around getting people like you and I to go in and do independent, objective reviews. Clients love that stuff. And if you've got £1 million account, why would you not spend a bit of money on someone going in and talking to them about their account and what they can do to improve it from an objective perspective? Steve, I hope that our listeners have got some value from that, not just a rant about account activation plans. But thank you so much. I think that was really, really good. Get some real value there from how you can extract more money from your existing key accounts. So thank you.
No, the pleasure was mine. I think this is a critical topic. Key accounts are the lifeblood for a lot of agencies, and anything that an agency can do to keep and hopefully grow those big clients, that's important stuff. So it was a good topic. Thank you, Paul. Some great conversation today.
Excellent. Brilliant. Thank you. Episode 3 is coming down the chute soon. We're going to be talking about the slightly contentious issue of outsourcing. Do you outsource? Oh, I think Steve and I are going to have some conversations about that one. Until next time, thank you very much, Steve. Thank you very much, listener.
Thank you, everybody. Great, Paul. Great job as always. And we'll see you again in the next one.
Cheers, dude.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching and listening to Across the Pond. Get in touch with Paul at clientadvocates.co.uk and Steve at harpethmarketing.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.